I do feel a secret agenda to be like, how do I push more Alberta? How do I push more Edmonton? In my TV show, How to Fail as a Pop Star, one of my favorite scenes is like the opening scene where you see an Alberta license plate. And it's such a small gesture, but it meant so much to me and to like create.
What's poppin'? My name's Shy Friend.
My name is Rowan.
Hi, I'm Ian from Apollo Western Cup.
My name is Dana Demento.
My name is Katie.
We are from the House of Ebony, and you are watching
Queer in Alberta.
Welcome back to Queer in Alberta, the podcast where I chat with 2S LGBTQIA+ Albertans from all across the province to share their stories. If you are new here, welcome to Season 4. My name is Kels Valenzuela Delamarter. I'm your host. I use she, her pronouns, and this podcast is filmed and recorded right here on Treaty 7 territory, home of the Blackfoot Confederacy and the Otipemisiwak Métis government in the Alberta District Number 1. In just 4 seasons, I think it's safe to say that the show has gone through a big set of changes beyond just my hair getting shorter every year. Every season of the show, I think about a kind of vision board, you could say, a list of ideal in a perfect world guests that I would love to interview. It doesn't always work out, but sometimes you get maybe 1 or 2 of those really, really big guests that you want to chat with. And this season, I was able to make it happen. I have admired Vivek Shraya for a very long time, but I didn't realize until very recently that she grew up in Edmonton, Alberta. Now, if you are meeting Vivek for the first time or you've never heard of her, first of all, go and check out her fantastic body of work. It spans music, literature, visual art, theater, TV, film, and fashion. She truly does it all and has such a passion for creativity. She is a 3-time Canadian Screen Award winner, the creator and writer of the CBC Gems series How to Fail as a Pop Star, and she was nominated for the Polaris Music Prize. Her best-selling book, I'm Afraid of Men, was heralded by Vanity Fair as cultural rocket fuel. And I have to say, on top of all of that, she has really great taste in boots. I was very envious of the boots that she wore sitting across from me during our interview. When I found out about this connection, I knew that I wanted to see if she would at all be interested in joining me on Season 4 of the podcast. And to my surprise and excitement, she said yes. It was months and months of scheduling and emailing between the two of us before we were finally able to make it work for an interview. We were able to get together very quickly just before she returned to Calgary for her event with the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra. The event celebrated 10 years of being trans with a revisitation of her Polaris Prize-nominated album Part-Time Woman, readings from her best-selling books, and covers of songs by female pop stars, including Shania, Christina, and TLC, that shaped her sense of girlhood. After our interview, Vivek actually invited me to come to this show, and I got to watch the performance in person. Without getting too dramatic, sometimes I feel like I have these moments where you're experiencing something that's so vivid and surreal and all-encompassing. It kind of jars you out of reality. It just takes me back to a different version of myself that couldn't have dreamed that I would be living the life that I am today or experiencing moments like that. I felt like Vivek's concert really, really touched on that feeling for me, and it was just so beautiful to be in this space with so many other queer and trans individuals in Calgary celebrating her journey with transness that night. In the episode, we talk about growing up in Edmonton, about how she continues to reference Edmonton and her family and her work, even though she's now since moved to Toronto. We talk about what inspires her, what draws her to projects, to stories, and we also discuss our experiences with family. But this is a love letter to Alberta for all of its complexity, for its beauty and its struggles. This is Vivek Shraya on Queer in Alberta. For people that are meeting you today for the first time, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Donut lover.
Donut lover?
I just love donuts. No, I would say I'm an artist. Yeah. I love the singular. I was doing like the multidisciplinary artist for so long, but I'm like, but an
Right.
artist is by nature, I think in some ways, someone who's interested in making art, whatever the form. So I just kind of like artist, period.
But I'm glad that you said you're an artist, but also that you opened up with the donut aspect. Are you the type of person that gets like a donut totally covered in toppings, or what are we doing? Maximalism?
First of all, let me just say, shout out to Tim's.
Mhm.
I'm someone who loves Tim's.
Controversial in this day and
Very
age.
controversial. I love Tim's. A sour cream glazed donut is like my go-to. Like,
Really?
I heard they're phasing them out too, which is very stressful. And there's a Reddit thread. There's a whole thing about the phasing out of the sour cream glazed donut. But
I love that you're in deep with the community.
Deep.
Yeah.
I'm finding my community on Reddit. Okay, it's a weird time.
Yeah.
But I also do like the maximalist donut. There is shout out to Donut Party, which two of my friends own in Edmonton, but now they've opened here in Calgary. There's two locations.
Yeah.
And they do all these like amazing wild flavors. I don't know. It's that dough and the little bit of crunch, but then the icing, like it's just that sweet salt, everything. It's just, yeah.
Something about this is very queer coded. Like this deep love for
donuts, you think?
donuts. I just feel it. And you're reminding me, because you're in Ontario now, right?
I am, yeah.
I think it's Hamilton, Ontario. I went there
Ooh,
couple
a Hamilton
summers ago.
donut? Do I need to go there?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It was Donut Monster, I
See,
want to
love
say.
these names too.
It's
Donut
kind of on
Monster,
brand.
Donut Party,
Mhm.
Tim Hortons.
But that was like, I took a bite of that and was like, maybe I moved to Ontario. It was the donut that did
Wow,
it for
so
me.
I need to take a donut pilgrimage is what you're saying.
You do,
Okay,
100%.
Okay.
We're going to start off with a segment called Quick Fire Queer.
Okay.
5 fruity questions, 5 seconds to answer. Do you think you are up to the task?
I'm nervous. I'm stressed. I'm sweating.
Big breath in, big breath out.
Wait, did you say 530 questions?
530 questions. Could you imagine?
What's 530? I'm like 530 questions.
That's going to be for part 2. We haven't got that far yet. 5 fruity questions.
Oh, 5 fruity questions.
You got it.
Okay.
It's
fruity.
kind of the vibe.
Right. Yes. It's coming. It's all coming together.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it. So your first question, fudge, marry, or kill. Any 3 songs you've put out and why?
Okay, I'm gonna marry a song I wrote called Bump.
Bump.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that song. I don't know.
Bump.
Fudge. I wrote a song called Good Luck You're Fudged.
Mm-hmm.
So because we're talking about fudging, let's go
Fudging.
with Good Luck You're Fudged.
G rating, we love her. Mm-hmm.
And then kill a good thing.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
A good thing. It's called A Good Thing.
Why
So-
are we killing a
well,
good thing?
I
We're
mean, it's just
unaliving.
it's the first album. I don't know. I feel like I was still figuring out who I was. So, yeah.
Question number 2. What is the book, podcast, film, or TV show currently living rent-free in your mind?
Not my own.
Not your own.
Okay.
Somebody else.
Somebody else.
We're making some space here.
Sure. Yes. Fair. One Battle After Another, I think was like the best movie I saw last year.
Gorge.
But I just saw this movie called Pillion. It's like a new queer film about like a biker daddy and like a sub. And it's like Alexander Skarsgård and like
Edge of my seat.
Dudley, who plays Dudley in Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say it's like top 3 best queer movies I've ever seen. And I get very stressed watching queer movies. In fact, like I just, as soon as I start watching, I just start thinking about what does it mean for the culture? What does it mean for the people?
Totally.
How are we perpetuating evil stereotypes? All of that stuff.
Another one to add to the list. Everybody cue that up. Question 3. Out of the many artistic projects you've done, what's one project that you'd love for audiences to take a second look at?
Ooh, what a generous question. I'm going to say I did a photo series. Well, movies is a theme here. I really loved this movie growing up called Legends of the Fall, which was actually shot in Alberta with Brad Pitt and Julia Ormond. And there was something about his gender presentation in that movie that felt atypical of masculinity. And I think as queer people, we're always looking for other forms of representation, and in the lack of representation, I felt like this weird kinship with the character.
You gravitated to it.
And so I made a photo series in Calgary called Legends of the Trans, and I sort of like embody the character in the photo. So you can see it on my website.
That's so
yeah,
cool.
I'd love for people to check that out.
Your 4th question is, who is a queer Canadian artist that inspires you today?
I'm not suited for lightning round.
You can take.
We should do turtle round.
What's
We just
turtle?
like sit.
with our tea.
Yeah, exactly.
With our knitting.
And it takes me half an hour to come up with an answer.
And it's a good answer, though.
I'm gonna say Teamatangi.
Okay.
I had an imprint really briefly called VS Books where I was publishing emerging BIPOC writers, and I had the privilege of publishing Teamatangi's debut book, Shut Up You're Pretty, which then went on to become like #2 of Canada Reads last year. And this year, I believe she's putting out her follow-up book. It's a novel. It's called My Person, and I cannot wait to read it. Scarborough.
This is our final question, my love. Are you ready?
Okay.
You've made it this far. You can do it.
Okay.
This one, I went to the archives for it, so
Oh,
I'm
geez.
really looking
Oh,
forward to
geez.
your
Oh,
answer.
geez.
It says, in your zine, The Magnificent Malls of Edmonton, you asked Edmontonians to share their funniest, saddest, most treasured, or most symbolic
Yes.
mall memory. But I'm curious, as the resident expert, which mall would you say is the fruitiest of all in Edmonton?
The fruitiest?
The fruitiest.
The fruitiest mall? Jeez. I mean, I'm going to say Hub Mall.
Which one is that?
So it's in the university. It's a weird mall
wouldn't
that's
know this
part
one.
of the University of Alberta.
Okay.
And I remember when I was a student, just like positioning myself somewhere just so I could see like other gays. It was like the only time I would see other gays on campus was like in this mall. And I also remember like
Gays at the mall.
perfecting my like gay walk so that like, you know, like keeping the eyes tight and just, you know, strutting a little bit, trying to get a little bit of attention from the gays. So that to me was like very much like my coming of age gay mall was like Hub Mall.
You know, at first I had to like get the sales pitch, but as soon as you said mall and university, it made sense.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
A mall and a university, but it is a thing.
Hub
So.
Mall. Well,
Hub
there
Mall.
you go. And that is your quickfire queer.
How long did I take? Like, did that take like 15 minutes?
We threw the 5 seconds out the door and we're renaming it Vivek's Turtle Lightning Round.
Turtle lightning round. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
It's kind of I do kind of like it. Well, I think that was a
Do you have
smash
like
hit.
animation for the podcast? It's like all of a sudden my face turns into
We
a
should.
turtle.
You're literally giving my editor ideas right now. And once again, the rights to do so.
Yes, absolutely. If you can turn me into Ninja Turtle, even better.
There you go. I want to give an audio like description and shout out of the artistic space we're in right now.
Yes, look at this beautiful space.
Can you see, like, maybe
The
describe for
art.
people that are listening and not watching?
Okay,
what
sure.
We got
Yeah,
going
there's
on here?
like colorful circles and colorful lines and like a pink painted fireplace,
Lego flowers.
blue stools, aqua couch.
I think straight people live here. I think that's the vibe
100%.
I'm getting.
It's very like straight aesthetic.
Very, very much so,
Yeah.
with the pitchfork and the farmer photo.
100%.
Yeah,
Very Alberta.
shout
Giving
out
Alberta.
for sure. Shout out to my friend Cassie. I wanted to do that just quickly because this is her studio space, and I feel so
Straight
lucky.
Cassie.
Straight. She's not gonna like that one. Straight Cassie. Het. Yes.
Cassie.
Oh my goodness. You're living in Toronto now,
am.
back here in Southern Alberta for the first time in a bit.
In a bit, yeah. You still live here for 6 years?
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
keep going back and forth between Alberta and Ontario my whole life.
And how does it feel? This equilibrium between the two.
I mean, it's mostly just funny because there's such a weird rivalry between the like
For sure.
provinces. Like
yeah.
Albertans are always like, oh, Toronto, they're stuck up. And Ontario is always like, oh, Albertans, they're rednecks. Like it's
Yes.
like, very reductive.
Mhm.
And when I tell each party that I'm going to the other, they're like, "Oh, you're going to Alberta," or Alberta's like, "Oh, you're going to Toronto." Like
That's
it's
so
such
true.
a so it's been funny to like have the privilege of like living in both of those spaces in my life. I was born and raised in Edmonton, then I lived in Toronto for 15 years.
Yeah.
Then I was teaching at the University of Calgary for 6 years and was living here,
Right.
and now I'm back in Toronto.
Mhm.
Not one is better, my friends. It is really about the season of your life. And I think this is like a hard thing for queer people, especially because there
Totally.
is always the sort of appeal of the big city and like
Yes.
a feeling that your life might
Would
be
be better,
better,
easier.
different, safer.
Mhm.
And some of those things are true. I mean, one of the things I love about Toronto is like you can go to a grocery store, you can go to like a convenience store at 1 o'clock, and you won't be the only person of color. 1 o'clock in the morning, and you won't be the only person of color. You won't be the only queer person. Like to be not always the difference somewhere, and like I don't think we realize how much weight that takes to be the difference all the time. So that is one of the nice things about quote unquote the bigger city, but there are such wonderful things about Calgary and Edmonton that like I feel so again fortunate that I've had to experience, and a big part of it's actually the community. Like
For sure.
I think in bigger spaces people can be, I mean, you didn't ask for my hot take and I've just like gone.
But I want your hot take.
Well, but the thing about a smaller city is that a big city is that people can really take it for granted, the privileges and safeties and resources that exist. Whereas in a smaller city, I feel like there is a kind of like, look at what you're doing, right?
You have to do it.
Yeah, you kind of have to build it, and you have to learn how to coexist with others. If you have conflict, you know you're going to run into that person at a party next week or the week after. You can't just be like, see ya, I'm going to ghost. So those are things that I'm really glad, especially someone who grew up in Edmonton. I feel grateful actually that I, despite the relentless homophobia, that I also got to experience what it's like to live in a city that is about supporting our own in a very like beautiful and meaningful way.
And you know, the way you're speaking about this right now is reminding me of another project of yours that I looked at. You made a film a few years ago about
Reviving the Roost.
The Roost,
Yeah,
exactly.
which I talked about a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah,
and I remember watching that and resonating with so much of what you've said. And even we've had guests on the show that I've talked about this before, but they maybe moved here from Toronto, and they point to that exact thing of people here have to work that much harder to find each other. They have to come together as a community, deal with conflict, whereas in the big city, there's so many different groups that it's easy to be isolated from one another.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that's something that when you're here actively in it and you've only known this experience, you don't realize it's something special and you take it for granted.
It's so special. It's so special. I mean, the reason why I made that film about the Roost is, which doesn't exist anymore and is actually now like a border police office, which is like really disturbing, is because there was something so unique about a gay bar where you could get every kind of queer in the room. You'd get drag queens, you'd get, you know, leather daddies, you get twinks, you get lesbians. And I mean, again, there's all kinds of internal politics. It wasn't just a sanctuary, like, but there was something special about being in a space where you get everyone. Whereas I find in Toronto, it is very segregated. And as someone who doesn't watch Drag Race, like doesn't really, you know, isn't like a Hanlon's Beach nude kind of girly. Like there's all these very specific ways of being queer sometimes that I don't feel like I relate to. Yeah. That sometimes I just miss a blanket general space because I feel like I have to subcategorize myself in a way that doesn't always make sense, as opposed to like, where's just the gay bar? You know, like, can I just go be queer somewhere, as opposed to like having to find a space that checks off a variety of my interests, you know?
What you're saying, noticing that there's almost like these categories of what is queer, what is acceptably queer. And I think we are far from the first people to point out how often those are delineated by whiteness, cis privilege, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm trying to hedge at is that I've felt that experience as like a Filipino queer person, trying to find, how do I understand my queerness? What does it look like to me? One thing that I frequently get all the time is just because I have short hair and maybe like to shop in the men's section a little bit, people always assume that I'm non-binary or use they, them pronouns. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just find it interesting that I'm not perhaps allowed sometimes naturally to just have this really broad experience of femininity.
100%. Yeah. 100%. I mean, yeah. And I could see that for you. Like, I'm sure that is an assumption I could have potentially made. Similarly, like, because I'm trans, but I haven't like gone through, you know, gender reassignment surgery and hormones, there is an impetus to also use they, them pronouns for me as well. So yeah, I mean, we definitely, and I think the hardest thing about being queer sometimes is the fact that we do it to each other. Like we impose these boxes and labels and limitations on each other, which is kind of the antithesis of being queer to me. The to me, the definition of being queer is like fluid, open,
Exactly.
beyond binaries, beyond labels. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, we've all drunk the Kool-Aid.
But the other thing too that I wanted to say is when you were talking about the kind of like stereotypes that Albertans and what are the Ontarians? Yeah,
Ontarians.
that they have for each other. Do you ever play with it? And I find that when people think of an Albertan, they don't think of somebody that looks like me.
No, and they don't think of someone like me either.
Exactly. That's what I was wondering if you've maybe related to that.
No, I don't play with it, but I definitely
I'm just chaotic over here.
No,
I
love it. I love that for you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think for me, a big, when I got the job at University of Calgary 6 years ago, I was like, holy crap, am I
Yeah.
moving back to Alberta? But I think one of the things that excited me about coming back was sort of pushing against this idea of like what is or who is an Albertan.
Yes.
And meeting other people that are also resisting this idea
Mhm.
of like what it means to be an Albertan. And I don't just mean people of color, like, and I don't just mean like queer people. Like, I think there's a lot of people in this province and in this city that don't necessarily represent the sort of political image of the city and the province. So
Absolutely.
that's definitely one of the things that really excited me about moving back, but also about living here is like, I just found Calgary, the day-to-day experience of Calgary. Like there's the political
For sure.
context and mumbo jumbo, but my day-to-day life in Calgary, I found to be a lot more livable and meaningful than I anticipated. But again, I think it's about finding the right pockets and the right people.
Yeah. And it sounds like, again, a relatable thread of we seem to both have like a lot of love for Alberta, but it's a love with complexity.
100%.
Yeah. How does that kind of like work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I can definitely be critical of Edmonton. I will make
I mean, it's home turf. It's
I
fair.
will make the occasional Dedmonton joke, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I still feel the love, and like I'm allowed to do it, like I'm allowed to say the word queer and I'm allowed to say Dedmonton.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I've been through it, So it's like a bit of a reclamation.
Forged in the fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have tender feelings. I've had to do a lot of work though to get there. I think because of the trauma that I experienced growing up. I didn't feel that for a very long time. Like I definitely was somebody who was like, I need to get out of this city to survive.
Yeah.
And that was my story. And I felt a lot of guilt in my 20s for leaving because a lot of my friends didn't leave.
Yeah.
And, this tension that I was talking about, do you leave, do you not leave?
Yeah.
I felt, and I think it was Michael Fair started the Exposure Festival years ago, which doesn't exist anymore. But there was so much amazing, and there still is so much amazing grassroots work that happens in Alberta.
Absolutely.
And I always felt a certain guilt for like abandoning the cause, but I couldn't find a way to push through here. And so I think one of the things I've tried to do as an adult and in my like late 20s, early 30s and like 40s is like, make art that does show that complexity of Alberta and show Alberta in a different way, whether it is Reviving the Roost or Legends of the Trans, like making art that's either based here or about here to show that complexity and to, like, again, I think that I don't see a lot of Alberta art's visibility in the broader like spectrum of Canadian art.
Yeah.
Canadian art tends to be so Toronto-centric. And so
most things feel that way.
Yeah. And so I do feel a secret agenda to be like, how do I push more Alberta? How do I push more Edmonton? In my TV show, How to Fail as a Pop Star, one of my favorite scenes is like the opening scene where you see an Alberta license plate. And it's such a small gesture, but it meant so much to me and to like create. And then I remember doing the screening of it in Edmonton and people just getting so excited about all like the Edmonton references. So those are some of the ways that I try to like navigate the complexity of that relationship.
Yeah. We've talked about Edmonton, Toronto, the balance between the two. Let's maybe look a little bit more about that time that you spent teaching in Calgary.
Sure, yeah.
How was your experience coming back after so long away?
Like mixed. There were things about it that I mean, as all things, I guess. I really, really enjoyed my students. I remember on the first day of class thinking, I'm going to show up and do I like talk about my identity? Like, how do I do this on the first day of class? Right. And, like at the time there wasn't a lot of like trans faculty members in academia in North America.
I can
like
see that.
full-time faculty. This is like 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to like come and situate myself, be like, hi, my name is Vivek Shraya. Like I use she, her pronouns. I identify as trans. Like I did the whole spiel.
Mm.
And I really expected the next, and I was like, I go by Miss Shraya. And I really thought the next day that students were going to like be gone. Like I
Yeah.
really thought people would have dropped out of the class.
Exodus.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
gone. And when I walked in the next day and they were all there, I even made a joke. I'm like, oh, you're all still here. And they didn't even understand the joke.
They were like, obviously.
And they had no problem with calling me, like, in terms of being misgendered in my life, like seldom by students. Most of my students, if not all, Miss Shreya, she, her, no prob.
Mm-hmm.
I know that some of that, without over romanticizing it, is also about power dynamics. I'm responsible for their grades and they all want A's. So, of course, they're going to care a little bit more. But I don't want to undermine how open they seemed and how receptive they seemed to me, even like the bros and the jocks in my class. Like
Yes.
I never felt that they were like eyeing me weird or looking at me weird. I will say that that wasn't always my experience with my colleagues.
Which, how disappointing is that to hear?
Yeah, so that's what was a strange tension, was that I had students who had no problem with my gender and who I am.
Yeah.
But I definitely had colleagues who struggled with my pronouns, who misgendered me. I had one colleague who would see me in the hallway and would look away, like would not say hello to me. I had colleagues who I would email who would not respond to me. And it's funny, I've just started working another job and everyone says hi in the hallways. Everyone responds to email. Everyone's super friendly. And I'm like, wow, it's
Isn't
so
this
nice
nice?
here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is a very low bar.
Literally,
And
common decency.
yeah. And it's funny because
Wow.
people talk about academia as being like very toxic and
Yeah,
competitive and siloed. And unfortunately, I did find a lot of those things to be true. I found it really, I was really lucky that I got hired around the same time as 2 other queer faculty. And so we had our own like WhatsApp thread and like we kind of bonded, which was really, the queers found ourselves,
You
each
meet around the
other.
rainbow water cooler.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which was really nice. But overall, I would say that, yeah, I think one of the most challenging experiences of working at the university was my colleagues. And I don't think I even realized how bad it was until I started my new job where everyone was friendly and nice. Like I think I just internalized that, well, I guess this is just
what you
how
gotta
it
do.
is. And this is, yeah, you can see a colleague and have them just like not say hi to you and that's fine. And now I'm like, no, actually that was inappropriate and that was fudged. You know.
Fudge. Yeah. No, that's awful to hear, honestly. And you know, I don't know if you've had, I'm sure you probably had so many students tell you this, but a friend of mine was actually the person who suggested that I interview.
Oh, that's so nice.
And she was a student in your
Oh,
class.
that's so nice. Did
And she
she like
talked
my
about,
class?
yes, she
Okay.
said how much you inspired her, how you would be like doing your concert one night and then back in the classroom the next. She was like, if you get anybody on the show, you should interview her.
Oh, that's so nice.
yeah.
I mean, I think that was the other challenge I had with the university is that they hired an artist. You know, like I remember like when, without getting in the weeds, when you apply for an academic job, they really put you through the ringer because it's like a tenured job. And so you do a job talk and all this stuff. And I opened my job talk. I was so stressed. I'm like, do I quote Judith Butler? Like, I'm not an academic. And I was like, no, I made a conscious effort to go in as an artist. So I actually opened my job talk singing Whitney Houston, which was like a bold move at 8 a.m.
Are you for real?
And I was up against like 2 white dudes with PhDs and they hired me. But then the moment I got there, and what was so cool for me and hopefully my students is that like, while I was teaching, I was constantly making art. So I wasn't a faculty member that was like, my career like is on hold. Like I am teaching, but I'm also in real life making art. I'm walking the walk, so to speak.
Yes.
And so students at any point in time could engage with me in the classroom, but also engage with me and see what I was doing in the world, which to me was really exciting, is like wanting to offer that. But the university made that quite difficult as well. It's like they hired me as an artist, but as soon as I got there, they're like, no. That's not how things work here. You can only do that in the summer.
Okay.
You know, and they really like, so that was another sort of challenge. if you will.
Challenge, yeah. It sounds like, and I've experienced this too in different spaces, but when an org or somebody brings you onto a project or a role and they're ready for you in theory,
That's exactly it.
but not in the
That's
everyday
exactly
reality.
it. And I've run into this a lot. So it's interesting to hear you echo that back to me in that language, because I think that I represent like a shiny dangling carrot or something where they're like, oh, if we hire this person or if we work with this person, it'll make us feel better about this and this, or it'll change this.
It looks good.
It looks good.
Yeah.
But then they bring me in and then immediately it's like, no, actually, that's not how things work here. And I'm like, if you wanted someone who could just fulfill the on paper mandate of professor, you could have hired that. But you hired the girl who sang Whitney Houston at 8 a.m. And I did not hide who I am and what I want to bring.
Yeah.
I think for me, the flip side is like, what I really loved about the classroom was to rewrite a lot of the wrongs I experienced in my university experience. On the first day of class, I would say to students, I know that a lot of you, the most important thing, because it's so ingrained in you, is to get an A. That is the most important thing. That's what you care about. My job as a teacher, as I see it, is if we can all leave this class feeling like better citizens, more engaged citizens, that we can think about the world and see it differently. That's my goal for us. And it was so exciting to sort of like let that be the foundation of a class.
Yeah.
And sometimes actually see that come through in some students, because that to me is the point of the classroom. The point of the classroom isn't to be punitive, isn't to be like F, C, D.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah. It's to like introduce different ways of thinking and different kinds of ways of making, and hopefully that inspires. So anyways, it's really nice to get that feedback from
I would be remiss if I didn't pass it on
know,
on her
that's really
behalf.
nice.
Yeah. And I think even too that bringing it back a little earlier about how your students received you so seemingly effortlessly, right?
Totally.
I think that's something that I'm really eager to amplify as well, because like we said in the beginning, there are narratives about what people are like here in Alberta. Your students were a window of a different story.
Exactly. And I think what's sometimes sad to me when I think about the job is I think that there were good intentions about hiring me.
For sure.
And the students received those, but in the end, the department and the university struggled, I think. And now as far as I know, now there is no trans faculty or like, I don't know. To me, it's just like, in that department or whatever. So like we all kind of lose in a way, I don't know.
I'm sad to not hear that you're continuing to shape the minds of the future and encourage them and grow here at home. But I feel like just from the 5 minutes I've known you, this kind of mentorship and giving back with creativity seems to be a part of who you are. So now that you're back in Toronto, how do you continue to do that? I'm sure you do.
Well, one of the things I like to do is host these things called Ask Vivek.
Tell me everything about Ask Vivek. This is your podcast now.
Yeah, it's Ask Vivek.
Change the branding. Change it.
But I just feel so fortunate that I've gotten to do so many things in my life, but every institution I've tried to navigate, every art sector has always been like learning from scratch, whether it's like literature, whether it's music industry, whether it's TV. I've had certain people who've like given me advice along the way, but I feel such a responsibility to want to share that information, especially with other marginalized artists who don't necessarily have like a guidebook or access. So I love throwing these. I do it like once or twice a year, usually like at a bookstore or something, where it's just called Ask Vivek and people can sign up. And I try to do these one-on-ones for like 20 minutes where just show up, ask me some questions about like art, grants, publishing, whatever. And whatever I can do, if I have an answer, I'll try my best to answer. And I mean, that's just one example, but like that's something that I really, really like to do. I think as an introvert, it's been challenging to try to think about.
Did you say you're an introvert?
Yeah.
Darling, this surprises me. This surprises
I'm a shy
me.
girl. I'm a shy girl.
Okay, as we're here in the Doc Martens, in the leather baddie.
This is doing the extrovert work for me. I mean, listen, I can put it on,
That's
but
true,
I'm the way that I define introvert and extrovert for me. I know it's a binary for some people, but whatever. I mean, some people are non-binary. Some people are non-binary about extrovert and introvert, but for me, the way I see it is like a cordless phone. You're probably too young to to know a cordless phone, but like,
Hey, I remember.
okay,
I
so the
remember.
cordless phone needs to be on the base at some point to recharge.
True.
And extroverts, as I see them or as I understand them, are people who like get their energy from being, they're the cordless phone in the world.
Yes.
I need to be put on that base. That's where I get my energy. Is like I can be in the world, but where I get like my refill and recharge is the base. But anyways, as an introvert, it is tricky to figure out how to give back and how to offer mentorship. And I think for me, what excites me is one-on-one spaces, because it allows me just to get more intimate and more personal.
Do you have any advice we're talking about mentorship, giving advice anyway, for the people that are still here, queer and trans creatives who maybe are going into spaces that in theory are ready for them, but in practice, they maybe don't feel quite yet? How do you continue to create even when you feel those obstacles in front of you?
To think about U of C as an example, I will say try to find others in the institution that you can glom onto and that do support you, that can champion you, that can support you, that do believe in you. I think that really helps. I think also remembering that an institution will always take from you one way or another. And sometimes the best work you can do is actually outside the institution. Like we always want to find ways to bring meaning to our day jobs. If there's a way to inject it with a little bit of rainbow.
That is how we know we're both artists. We need the meaning. Otherwise, it's really hard.
But sometimes it's not sometimes the day job just has to be the day job.
Truth.
And sometimes it's about actually protecting your creative mindset and space so that you can do that work on your own time. And I think in the end, that's where I ended up with the university, was realizing that and this was like my grad program too, like realizing this isn't going to be the path for me to make change in the ways that I want to. So I need to protect my boundaries and myself so that I can do what I want to do on my own time.
I love that. And now my last anecdote on that is the Ask Vivek that we were chatting about. What if we did some sort of like Queer in Alberta collab special and we hosted one of those together?
I'd love that.
I
That
think
would be
it'd be
amazing.
so cool.
Yeah, I did it at Shelf Life a couple times.
We need somebody to get on this with us. Let's bring Vivek back and we're going to do it. And
Sure,
it'll just be
yeah.
so much fun.
Again, love doing that.
I wanted to ask you a bit about your relationship with your mom in particular.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. She is a common theme. Maybe that's what you're picking up, is she's a common theme in my work.
Yeah.
I explore my mom a lot,
Yeah.
which she doesn't like. My mom's an extremely private person. So the
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
that I am creatively obsessed with my mother is very frustrating to her, but she finds a way to suck it up. Sorry, Mom. And, it's been part of it's been like there's a couple reasons why. Some of it is that, quite frankly, my mom kept me alive. I grew up with a lot of suicide ideation growing up in Edmonton. And my mom didn't know the language of homophobia, didn't understand bullying, didn't understand gay, straight, queer, like that. Those weren't words in her lexicon, but she created a house where I felt loved. And it was that sort of fierce love from my mom that really prevented me from killing myself. And so I feel a huge debt to my mom. So I think a part of the reason why I keep coming back to her in my work is as a way to offer gratitude, even though she hates it. That's a whole other conversation. The other reason is I do kind of want to, one is a very strategic choice to push back against what I believe to be a really racist idea that if you're queer and you're racialized, your parents struggle with accepting you. And I think what is actually more true, or at least in my experience, is that acceptance actually just looks different. Acceptance for my brown parents hasn't meant waving the rainbow flag and coming to the Pride Parade and even hugging me and telling me we love you, as a gay or whatever. It's meant my mom, when she goes to India, she buys me jewelry. She's bought me like a rose gold crown. When we go to Little India in Edmonton, she haggles to make sure I get the best deal on the big Bollywood earrings. It's my dad when I send a selfie of me at a show and my dad responding, "You look so beautiful."
That's gorgeous.
And they still struggle with my pronouns. I've been using she her pronouns for 10 years now. They still do the he him thing.
Yeah.
And I have had to again, rethink what acceptance looks like. I could get very Western in my approach and be like, well, they're not using my pronouns and therefore they don't accept me.
Yeah.
Or I could try to broaden a bit. And if I want them to accept me, what does it mean for me to actually try to also accept where they're coming from? Which I think is a controversial thing to say in queer community. In queer community,
100%.
we're not supposed to try to see the other side. It's like, no, they should just accept us. And if they don't accept us or they're not doing it the right way, cancel, delete, unfriend, whatever.
Yes. Yep.
But I have found it to be far more generative and far more moving and loving on both ends to try to find a way to receive the love that they can give me the way that they try. And so I think that's another reason why my mom comes up so much in my work, is because I'm trying to highlight how acceptance in a POC South Asian family can look different. It's not that I'm not accepted. It's just that it looks different.
Yeah. This, it really touches home for me. And I want to ask you a bit deeper about it, if I may.
Sure, let's go deeper.
Well, the question that I had, because I've heard you speak about this on another podcast, I try to do my research for my
Okay, wow.
guests, right?
I hope I haven't bored you with my answers then.
Not even
Okay.
a little bit.
Okay, great.
I promise.
You're like, she's just recycling what she said on the other podcast.
No. What I was going to say is that when you were speaking just now about the kind of Western lens of what queer acceptance and love and support looks like, I fully have seen that and experienced that myself, and kind of justifying to people in my life that look at me and my family, because it's a bit of a complicated relationship.
Of course.
And they go, that's not enough for you. You shouldn't have to put up with that. But it erases the ways that my parents are trying, despite this being difficult for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
it's not going to be 100%, and it's not going to be 100% on Western terms, right? Like, I think that, sorry to interrupt, but I think, again, two things can be true. Your parents can have difficulty with who you are, but also find ways to support you.
Yes.
And one doesn't take away from the other, you know?
Yes. And I don't know if this was ever something you experienced, but sometimes it's hard to stay in that knowledge, though, of like reassuring myself my parents still love me and do ultimately accept me, even if it's not in the same outward big expression of love that you maybe hope for after so many years, right? So I guess it's like, have you ever been in that place where you know in your head, it is a moment of my mom loving me or my dad loving me, but I wish they could give me more? How do you wrestle with those feelings on the inside? Because I guess a better way to say it is sometimes I feel frustrated, right? That it isn't where I would hope it would be 10 plus years after coming out, and I'm not as gracious with them or myself. Maybe the answer is even just acknowledging that instead of trying to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just really ebbed and flowed. Like, don't get me wrong, there are times that I'm deeply frustrated with my parents for not showing up in the way, like, you know, I forget the example, but my mom started referring to someone else by their new name and was doing that seamlessly. And I got really mad. I was like, wait, it's been 5 years at that point, and you still can't use she, her for me, but you have no problem adjusting in this way.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a hard conversation for us. And then there are other times where, like, you know, I have this show this weekend with Calgary Phil, and
Shout out.
my parents are taking the bus, the Red Arrow, and they're like in their 60s and 70s just to come see the show.
That's
and
incredible.
And I'm nervous about it, but I'm also so moved because I'm like, that is them showing their love for me. And so I think part of it is like, again, recalibrating at all times. It is okay to be frustrated in those moments as long as you don't dismiss and not see all the ways that they're trying. And I think that's the thing that I find really frustrating is that when you talk to other people or other queers, there's a way in which
they can't understand.
Exactly. And that the bad outweighs the good and that it should be good all the time. And I don't think that way. Like, I think that it's a lot more complicated. I actually do have, again, controversial, but I do have a lot of sympathy for what it means to create a being who then tells you, I'm not what the doctor told you I am. And again, for some parents, that might be something that you can easily grapple with. But for my parents, it's been a challenge for them. And I do sympathize, not because I'm trying to make it easy for them or like, you know, ignore
Mm-hmm.
their refusal. But I think for me, it's more about just like grace.
Mm-hmm.
I think that across the board, regardless of parent child, like in all relationships, if there's one thing we could be doing more in general is more grace. And hard lines aren't going to help us move forward. And for me, it's the grace that I've shown my parents that I think has constantly actually pushed them forward. I think if I had been more hard lined, I would have seen less change and less progress with them.
I agree. And I do come back to for myself, like my mother met my partner for the first time a couple of years ago, and it was a tense meeting, bestie. Like,
wow.
I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but even though she didn't talk to her very much or ask her a ton of questions, my mother took the time to make her a meal, which I don't know if it's the same in your family, but that's a huge act of love, right?
Exactly.
So even though it was difficult for her, that was like one of the
That's your mom
most
trying.
powerful moments,
That's
right?
your mom trying.
Yeah. And I guess sometimes I think it's really easy when you come from, I'll say it, like an immigrant background. Like, I feel like you have to always soldier on and be strong and never really sit in those negative emotions. But it is nice to hear this kind of like push and pull of grace for them. But also for when you are feeling frustrated, it's okay. It's allowed.
Exactly. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to push back, like to have those hard conversations if you can.
Yeah.
Again, as long as it doesn't cancel out all of the ways that they're trying.
Exactly.
And I think that that's the biggest thing is just trying to see the full picture of your parents, of someone, of people you think, you know, are your enemy, right? Just like, what does it mean to like step back and actually see a bigger picture as opposed to really tying and committing people to like one act or one word.
You know, I really, really appreciate your perspective on that and your words. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot and have the answer for all of life's big questions.
Put me on the spot. What's the meaning of life?
Well, that's an interesting one. What do you think? The meaning of life in this gorgeous artistic space. What could it possibly be?
Gay sex.
Right. Boom. That's my rating. Clock it. I love it. We have a few audience questions for you.
Oh, shoot. Okay, we're not wrapped. Okay, let's go.
Are you ready?
Are these lightning round or can I?
You can turtle
round?
your way through this,
blessed.
honey.
Bring back the turtle.
Bring back
emoji.
Intentional. Yeah, that's what we're going to do here. So we have some audience questions from Edmonton, Fort McMurray, Calgary, Lethbridge, and Ontario for you.
Let's go with Fort McMurray first.
Fort McMurray, okay.
Fort Mac.
All right, well, it says, as someone who is from Alberta, how has the recent legislative direction felt for you? Does this feel like the place you grew up in? Fort Mac said, boom, out the door.
It's devastating. I don't know. It's been very, like, we've known that it's been coming, but it's been very hard to watch. And I think what's hard is like, yes, it actually does remind me of the province I grew up in. And that's what's the hardest is that in my lifetime, I've actually seen progress in this province. People in this city have fought very hard for really important rights for our community and our community members. And I've said this many times, but I think I've had a very narrow and naive understanding of progress, thinking like, oh, we're just moving forward. So the idea that someone could come along or a group of people could come along and wipe things away is actually quite shocking to me. Like I don't know how to process it. I find it quite, just shocking actually. So, but again, I keep going back to this place of, I don't think the government necessarily represents its people. I actually think that there are more people on our side than not. I don't think that the average Albertan actually feels the same way as where the government has been pushing things. And again, I think part of it's also that the cat's out of the bag. I have a friend and her child recently started identifying as non-binary in Calgary. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to keep happening no matter what laws get passed or taken away. We're still here and we're going to continue to be here. And frankly, we were here before too. Like I think about the life I've had in this province before certain rights existed, which was very difficult, but I existed. And now, I get to have the rich life that I get to have. So I think that, to answer the question, I'm devastated, I'm shocked, but I am trying to once again hold the fact that two things can be true, and that there's amazing people like yourself that are doing really important work to keep us moving forward regardless of what the government is doing.
Thank you. And that point to what you're saying about not everyone feels this way, right?
Yeah.
I would love to even send you a couple of clips from an episode I filmed in Fort Macleod,
Oh,
Alberta.
wow.
And no place is perfect, right? But the reason I was so proud of that episode is because Fort Macleod, as you know, is tiny. It's a tiny, tiny town in southern Alberta. And they throw one of the biggest drag shows in the province
Oh, shoot.
every
Wow.
single year.
Holy
And
crap.
do you know the Empress Theater?
Yeah.
Yeah, they take it over with queens from Edmonton, from
Wow.
New York,
Wow.
and they just throw the biggest party once a year for Fort Macleod Pride.
Wow.
So that's an example of like, this is a small conservative on the on the onset town, but look at what's happening that nobody else wants you to know
Well,
about.
you just told me about this collective too,
The House of Ebony.
the House of Ebony, which
Mhm.
only formed a year ago, right?
Incredible.
So I mean, here we are in this like supposedly awful time, which
Mhm.
is, and yet we have, and I think that's the like interesting thing that like I look to my queer mentors who talk about how it is often in these moments that really amazing and important moves forward and strides forward and art can emerge. And I think House of Ebony is like a really good example, you know?
The horrors persist, but the artists stand up.
Yeah.
We're
yeah.
out here. That was Fort McMurray. Thank you for such a heavy hitter to start this off. My goodness.
Let's go to Ontario.
Let's go to Ontario. Okay, so this is a bit lighter. Ontario says, question 1.
What's your favorite donut? No, joking.
So hard. What was it? It was sour something.
Sour cream glazed
Sour
Tim
cream
Hortons
glaze.
donut.
Next time I'll have those ready for
Okay,
you.
great.
But the question is about VS Books imprint. Wants to know how you go about selecting works to represent through VS Books.
Unfortunately, the imprint doesn't exist anymore because I now work for Penguin Random House.
Oh, wow, yeah.
As a senior editor. But if you are interested, just send me your manuscript.
Call her, beep her when you want to reach her.
Yeah, exactly. Send me your manuscript. Oh God, am I going to do this? Yes, it's Shraya at penguinrandomhouse.com. And yeah.
There you go. Hot on the pulse. The question that was following up was still about VS Books, but maybe let's talk it broader in terms of works that you select at Penguin now. It says, how important are the inclusion of queer themes to the selection process?
I mean, I definitely am. I gravitate to stories by marginalized voices. So like BIPOC voices, queer and trans voices. But that's not necessarily a necessity. I think the thing that excites me the most in a manuscript is being surprised or like an audience member. I want to be entertained. I want to be surprised. I don't want to know what's coming next. I want something to come out of left field. I want to put down a book and like then hold it back to my chest and be like, whoa, you know, which is like a hard thing. Like it's such a subjective thing to try to qualify.
But you just know it when you know it.
I guess. But yeah, like try to write something that hasn't been written before.
Do you want to go to Edmonton?
Yes, let's go to Edmonton.
Let's go to Edmonton. It says, how do you do so much so well?
Part of it is that I'm so excited about making and creating, and I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm curious. I think that there are a lot of people who are actually way more talented than me. And I'm not saying this to be modest or self-deprecating, but I think my skill is the fact that I am hungry enough to see something through, that I can complete things. And I think it's the ability to complete things that actually helps you grow. The whole like, I'm a perfectionist, I don't know how to do this, it's never going to be as good as I want. If you sit on something, you actually don't get better. The only way to get better is to make that first album that you may get asked about and want to kill. But
Fudge, Marry, Kill.
But you only wrote that song. That writing that song is what got you to the song that you want to fudge, and that writing the other song that you want to marry. And so, complete things, finish things, explore, like follow your whims. You know, think outside the box. You know, even my first short film, I didn't study filmmaking. I like downloaded a print and and like
LimeWire,
you know, and like learned Final Cut Pro on YouTube, you know, and I was just like, I had an idea of what I wanted to execute and I found the tools to do it, you know. Music, never trained, like it just I think people have a lot of fear, and I do too, but you have to push through the fear and make the things that keep you up at night, you know? And if you're not hungry in that way, then don't bother. Like, don't, like, let it go.
I think that's fantastic.
Why taunt yourself? You have to make the bad art to make the good art. Because I remember just being really hard on myself and being like, this sentence sucks or this thing sucks. And it's like, yeah, you just kind of have to push forward. And the thing is, like, actually, my producer, sorry, now we're on a tangent, but artists can also, especially in a time of social media where everything is quantified, it is so easy for us to determine the success of an episode, of a single, of, you know, whatever,
To
based
metrics.
on views and numbers, but the views and numbers aren't the whole story. To give you an example, I made a short film called I Want to Kill Myself about 10 years ago, and it's about my experience of thinking about suicide, obviously very literal. And you wouldn't know from the metrics, but I get a message, I want to say once every 3 months, from someone who was like, I wanted to kill myself. I found this video on YouTube and I didn't.
Wow.
And that's an example of how, and I'm not, again, not saying this to toot my own horn, tout my own horn, but to say that the metrics, you'll never actually know how your work can affect people and impact people. And so my producer, who I work with a lot, my music producer, has given me such good advice about quantifying our art. And what he said to me is, what if you didn't determine the success of a project until 5 or 10 years later?
That's a thought.
5 or 10 years later.
That's a thought.
Because you don't actually know. You don't actually know. You can go on tomorrow and be like, well, it only got 5 streams. But like, you don't know the conversations it's sprung. You don't know how you'll change from it. You don't know how your own art is going to get better from it. And I think we're in such a rush to quantify that also prevents why a lot of people don't make things, because they're so afraid of not having impact. But impact can take a long time.
Lasting impact,
and to me, that's been really useful because it relieves the pressure. Because when I do put out something and it doesn't get a lot of likes, it's so easy for me to be like, well, that was a waste of time. But it has to be more than that. It can't just be about like, well, this was only worth it if 5 people clicked on it or 2,000 people clicked on it. It has to be worth it for other reasons. And you have to give your project the time it deserves to find the right audience. I mean, you just talked about another podcast that I was on. That podcast was like, what, 10 years ago?
The More one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
I
very...
love that you remember exactly
Yeah,
which
I know
one.
exactly which one you're talking about, but that was a very long time ago. But here you are and you just checked it out, right? So
I listened to it on the drive-in.
Yeah, so that's a really good example of like, you can't measure the metrics of anything. It's more important. Don't focus on the numbers, just focus on making, focus on creating, focus on like following that thing that's eating you.
That's going to be some artistic advice that I take and put in my back pocket.
Great. Well,
Thank
if I've
you.
inspired you, then, you know.
For sure. Well, we could do a couple more questions, but honestly, a couple of them are a bit similar. So I think we've done it. I think we're
Is
good.
it just that my answers were so long? I know I go on tangents.
No. There's like a couple
You're
more
gonna edit
about
me
books.
and make me sound like a lot more succinct and tight, right?
I think you're too hard on yourself. This has been so much fun.
I'm so glad. This has been really nice. I feel like next time I'm on a podcast, I want to have my own laptop.
Yeah.
Because you have your laptop, you convey like a kind of seriousness. You're like, I'm the authority.
Thank you.
Whereas I'm just like
the star.
No,
the
but
artist.
like I feel like I want to be holding a laptop, so I'm like, oh, you have a question?
Let's see.
Yeah, let's see. So now ask me a question.
Oh, okay.
How does it make you feel, fave touches? That's a question
What
here.
does it say?
It says, how does it make you feel, fave touches?
I don't know what that means.
We were going to get nasty, apparently.
Fave touches. How does it make me feel?
So, no, you're going to ask me the question because I want to look. Okay.
How does it make you feel, fave touches?
Well, I've got my Homer glasses on.
Yeah.
That might be a dated reference for you. But, well, let me see. My fave touches include, well, actually, this is a PG podcast, right? Maybe I won't tell you about my fave touches. We'll save that for the next season. But yeah, I feel like the laptop gave me like a little bit of legitimacy. So I think this is my hot tip for you. I think future guests should get like the whole laptop so that way they feel more
like
legitimate.
We're on the same level.
Know?
I see.
It's
How does
question.
it make you feel, fave touches? Sometimes I do these and I don't remember, but can assure you there was no AI or anything used for your interview. Promise on my heart.
Oh, it's even crossed my mind. Okay.
But I have, I guess, the camera over here. If there's
Hi.
anything you want to share about where people can follow you, to keep up with your work, et cetera, et cetera. You're like, fave touches.
Yeah, fave touches. Okay, so my name is Vivek Shraya, and you can check out my Instagram, which is at Vivek Shraya. But I'm a huge old person, so I'm a huge proponent of the WW website. I've had a website since 2003. I think a website's so important because it's a way to archive our work, and I really feel like people of color, as queer people, our archives do not happen unless we archive ourselves. Note to self over there. So you can find all of my work going back to 2003, and there's like a lot of free stuff like visual art, photo essays, music, writing, links. Some of them are dead, unfortunately. But yeah, so highly would love for you to spend a little bit of time on vivekshreya.com. And if you are queer in Alberta, I just want to say thank you for like pushing through here and finding beauty and meaning here, and for doing the amazing work that you're doing here. I, as someone who again has moved back and forth but always keeps my heart and eyes on this province, I'm really grateful to the queers that stay and find a way to push through. So lots of love to you always.
Beautiful. That was stunning.
Yay!
Yay, we did it. Fave touches and all.
Donuts!
Sour cream is the way to go, apparently.
Sour cream.
Could we ask one last favor?
Oh, sure.
Could you look into that camera again and just say, my name is Vivek, and you are watching
Oh, I
Queer
think I
in
hear-
Alberta.
Okay. Hi, I'm Vivek, and you're watching Queer in Alberta.
Hey, that's done. You did it, my love.
I could have sung.
Thank you so much for that. That was great.
Thank you so much. That was so fun.
Coming up next on Queer in Alberta.
Similar thing. People hear ballroom and they think Bridgerton.
Yes.
But that is not what we're talking about right now.
No, there's different kinds of, so there's ball pageants and then ballroom scene kind of gestated from that.